Could you bring us up to date on the Syria Train and Equip mission that's been launched now, the new one, and kind of tell me, or tell us, how does it work, and how many people are being trained or have been trained? Are we talking about, dozens of people, hundreds of people? Thank you.
Dozens of people are now being trained. These are individuals as opposed to units. So what we did the first time was try to pull full units off the line and cycle them through training. We realized that didn't work. So in accordance with our commitment to find things that work, we're trying this. And so what this is pull some individuals out of units, vet them, give them some training, give them some capability, and then reinsert them back into the battlefield. So that's what the program is, and we're going to keep an eye on this program and keep working it, and if it works, we'll do more, and if it doesn't work, we'll shift again. And I think we've been very, clear and open about that fact that, some of this is us working through different scenarios and ideas and programs through a simple process of trial and error, see what works and what doesn't work. We want to work with these new trainees to help train them how to spot targets. And the answer is yes, of course we are. That's probably the largest single combat multiplier on the Syrian battlefield. The Syrians who we trained in the old program are still operating on the battlefield, and they're still able to identify targets for us. And that is a legitimate and real combat multiplier. That allows us to bring significantly more fires into play in any of these skirmishes, battles, and firefights that are taking place, throughout Syria.
I guess I was trying to get a sense of scale because there were also folks that were given some cursory training as well from the SDF or the SAC, I guess. And I'm just wondering, scale, is there more folks that are being trained now? Is this represent an increase in the level of training than you were doing before when you were just looking at the Syrian Arabs? Thanks.
Well, that SAC mission was, I think, unique, right? That was a very discrete, and by discrete I mean isolated, singular operation. So what that was we brought the leaders of various armed groups out of Syria for a week-long training and briefings and some relationship building, etc. So that was a very specific thing. That was leaders from about a dozen different armed groups, but the leaders of these smaller or of these subgroups that came together to form the SAC, the Syrian Arab Coalition. So that was a very kind of unique and has not yet been repeated training mission. What we're talking about, what you first asked about, was a training and equipping program that we are now doing that is based on the lessons that we learned from our ill-fated train and equip program of 2015. In that program, in the old 2015 program, we would identify an entire unit, exfiltrate that unit to a training location, train the unit, equip the unit, infiltrate the unit back in to the battlefield, and have them go fight. And that program didn't work out the way we wanted it to. So we paused it, stopped it, ceased it, didn't do it anymore. We conducted some assessments. We figured out what went right, what went wrong, how can we do this better. And so now we are trying again with adjustments. And the adjustment in this case is that it's a group of individuals. So I'm trying to think of a way to explain it that would be easy to understand. Imagine, a unit, we would take some members out of each unit and pull those members out of the unit. So the unit remains in the fight, right? Because one of the lessons we learned is people didn't want to come off the line for the training. Why? Because they're fighting for their homes, their families, a dedicated enemy, etc. So what we learned is pulling a full unit off a line is problematic. So now what we're trying is to take a few individuals out of a unit, not the leader of the unit. The leader of the unit is stick with his unit and fight. So a few individuals out of a unit, pull them off, get them some training, and then get them back into the fight with this new increased capability. With the theory that if you have a highly trained individual here, well, the man on his left and right are going to benefit from his great training. So now, for the price of training one, you've got three who are better, and maybe even more than that. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing here. And then, of course, there's an equipment piece, and again, the capability piece, right, that these guys are able to really be combat multipliers because they've got the ability to assist with air power. So scale, we're not comfortable talking about. I'll leave it at, it's still relatively small as we see if this works. Like I said, dozens, and that's all I'm going to say.
Are there other lessons learned from the first go-round that are being applied now? It sounds like instead of taking out whole units, you're taking out key leaders from units. What else is the U.S. doing differently?
Well, a lot of what we learned is will seem insignificant maybe in Washington or in the United States, but certainly cultural things. When to start the training, when not to train, how much leave to plan. It's little things like that, individual, personnel management almost type things that we learned that we believe now we can apply to get a better result. And that's really the only one I have at my fingertips. I can look into it and see what else there is. But we learned a lot of lessons from that first go-round.